What's up, amigos? Commander Jaime here today. Today we have an awesome interview with over here Crow. He's actually also named Antonio. You want to say hi?
Hello, people.
Awesome. And it's just really cool. It's just the opportunity we've actually met to more of a video call. We've always kind of like quoted each other on Twitter or like message each other, so it's pretty humbling just to be able to see other players and communicate for like the first time this way. Really today he actually did something amazing. So not only that he topped at BCS in Duluth, also Atlanta for those people who are geographical curious, he actually won the whole event for V Premium. And so he won it with Steam Maidens. And so today we're gonna go over his deck, his mindset and his thoughts behind it too, and also like his experience too with the event too, because one of the things that I always appreciate these kinds of content is that it puts like the deck list with the player mindset and you have the full package, so that way you can just use it to your advantage. I'll put the deck list on the video too, throughout the video, so people can get an idea and refer it back to easily. But Crow, is there anything you want to say before we get into it?
Yes. Just thank you everybody that has supported me and my journey on trying to achieve this goal. Winning this BCS has eluded me for so long. I've been playing the game since the end of 2013, beginning of 2014. And my very first regional event, I've actually top 8, but I end up losing to one of a Georgia local homie of mine, which I can't even be mad at because he actually won the whole event.
That's
just
awesome.
a quick side note, I have a curse. Anytime you play me anywhere between the last round of Swiss and top 8 or in top 4, you are guaranteed. Actually, I'm sorry, it's top 8 or or the last round of Swiss, you're guaranteed to win the event. I don't know why. It's happened every single time. It is yet to fail. I'm like, oh my goodness, 2018, I got 3rd place. The girl beat me in Swiss and she won the whole event. I was like, and 2014, same thing. I was like, oh my God, it's a curse. I can either only get top 8, 3rd place, or 1st. It's one of the 3. It never fails.
The other way to look at it is like, one, it gives you a really good tiebreaker at the end of the Swiss round, and 2 is like you could say that you lost to the person that won the whole thing too. So, so it's not a completely bad thing too. So let's get right into it. So tell us a little bit where you're from, Crow, like your community, and also like any history from it too that you want to share. Feel free.
Got you. So I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. I've been, again, playing the game for roughly about 9 years. I started in October, and I've been doing this for quite some time. And I've been also host my own tournaments now as well, called the Crow's Nest. And I've been doing that since post-COVID. So just a little lore behind it. When COVID hit, everything shut down, obviously, and we had no locals. Then things slowly but surely started opening up. Locals started opening back up when locals was actually hosting tournaments or anything like that. So I partnered with my local card shop. I asked, hey, can I just, do like a little small man bracket? Nothing too big. Obviously, I want everybody to stay safe and things of that nature. So we kept everything clean. Tables wiped off every round. Had tables, people spaced out to be safe, whatever, what have you. And I said, you know what? I just want to do something for the community. Nobody's doing anything. I said, let me just be that person. So I did like a $30 pot. Then, people started donating to me. So it went from 30 to 50 to 75. Then obviously things started opening back up more. Locals actually started opening up. People were hungry to play Vanguard. People wanted, we didn't have regionals because regionals were, shut down for quite some time, for like a year or so afterwards. And we were just now actually starting to have regional events like BCS, BSF. But I do know we was doing like BRO, but people want it in real life tournaments. So I was like, well, maybe I can do something. So I started doing, like I said, hosting tournaments of some Crow's Nest. And then it got so big now we're having like $300 pots, $500 pots. Matter of fact, the last event I just had was a premium event, $800 pot.
Wow.
I put in 5 originally. Well, I put in 4, I'm sorry. Then I had a Georgia locals of mine. He doesn't play as much because he works a lot. He says, I don't like the number 4, so I'm gonna donate $100 in V5. Also shout out to Yellow, which is Randy, Idle Orange's, companion. He actually donated also $100 to the pot, and then my new sponsors, Kingslayer, also donated $200 to the pot, and we actually had a bunch of people from Florida come down and play to the event, or come up technically, and play in the event. And everybody had a blast. We had like a 54-man bracket. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
That's really cool. Like I've heard of the Crow's Nest, and I've heard like other players that have kind of came from there too. I know one is like Outer Orange. She's also a YouTuber too, so shout out to her. And a few people there like Hammond Stewart, Hollis, Brian Dorsey, who's also one of my Metafy students, and Clayton as well, a few other people. So like you guys have like a really good nucleus of a community there, which I think is important for any community TCG. Just have like multiple nuclei throughout the country or throughout the world. That really shows like a thriving community that's growing, and also creating players that eventually have their own reputation, such as yourselves too. So that's super big too. With that being said, that was a good intro actually. So let's dive into more of the BCS itself. And so what are some key things that you did to prepare for the event? And this can be from like playtesting with people, maybe some meta expectations or specific matchups, anything like that. Feel free to share.
Got you. So funny enough, me specifically, what I do for like events or anything in general, I normally look, and my girlfriend actually, both of us, we actually play. She actually won Team League with me back in 2018 as well.
Mm-hmm.
We play test a lot, almost every day in a sense. Like before I go to work, we'll play test.
Wow.
After work, I will, after she get off work, we'll play test a little bit. Even if it's like hour, 2 hours, 30 minutes, we just play because one thing about Vanguard, we find it as a stress reliever because there's so much going on in the world right now. And
Amen.
Vanguard is like one of those escapes where you can do something you enjoy and have fun with it. And then you can also, make a little money off of it too. Like,
yep.
You pull like some nice cards, you can sell them. But like going back into like what you were asking me originally, normally, like I said, anytime a new set will come out, me and my girlfriend would kind of look at the card pool, was like, oh, kind of interesting in this. So I would read every single card that will come out and get posted. And then I will try and theory craft decks and try and piece two and two together with things that are currently out already, and then newer things that are coming out.
Yep.
And try and see if I could make a deck out of it. And then what we would do is that we would proxy. We don't really play, shout out to CFA as well, and the people that created Card Fight area.
Yep.
But we don't really use area like that. A lot of people are like, I don't really like it like that. And like I said, with me being face to face with my girlfriend almost every single day, we actually would print out proxies and we would sit down and play test.
So I nice to do that.
I think the biggest thing that people need to do is just to sit there and theory craft that. You don't necessarily have to play the cards. You can just sit down and piece two and two together and be like, oh, this works with this, or I could take this out and replace it with this. So that's like one of the many things that I do. Funny enough, I actually don't play test as much with other people like I should, because I just don't have a lot of time, because obviously real life happens. But I do talk to a lot of people, such as like the Kingslayer people, Georgia locals, Division members as well. Shout out Division, and other people that I know within the community as well. And we just sit there and theory craft decks, talk about the meta and things like that. You definitely have to like dive into the meta and see what might potentially be the new upcoming big dog, or the big three, as I like to call it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. One thing that you did mention, and I'll kind of stress to people out too, is that like you didn't really have enough time. So I think people feel like they need a lot of time to play test to actually do really well. That's one of the factors, but it's not the only factor in the way that your experience. And so you're smarter now. And so you can learn much more quicker, you can process things much quicker. So now you can lean more on the minds of other people, especially that you feel like are really good players. So just by that, like it still helps you. It keeps you in the mode, it keeps you in the game, because really once you start playing, then you kind of to adapt the situation and you really go far with it still. So that's a big thing that sometimes people miss. So going more into your deck actually, so why Steam Maidens? Can you elaborate a little bit, or maybe like the winning image, or even certain key cards?
Yes, so I'm gonna go back to when Steam Maidens first came out.
Sure.
So again, shout out to another homie of mine who actually I won Team League with back in 2018 as well. He is a Gear Chronicle man, like die-hard Gear Chronicle man, and he loves Chrono Jet. So obviously he was playing Chrono Jet V, which was like definitively the best deck to play at the time, because you either play Fang or you play Jet. And Jet was like, it came out of the Tri 3 set. And when the new clan selection had came out, they introduced Steam Maidens, and I looked at the cards. I was like, these cards look kind of cool. I was like, multi-attack, Okay. And then I started looking at the other cards like the Reinnovate Dragon, the Colossus, which is the Battle Door, things of that nature. And I started, piecing cards together. And I said, hey, I think this deck is better than Chrono Jet. He looked at me and was like, nah. He was at my house too. So
some strong words.
Right. So I pieced the deck together and we sat down, we played 5 games straight, and I 5-0'd him. And he was
wow.
He was like,
impossible.
He's like, I don't. Right. He's like, I don't get it. Like sometimes he gets the big head, so sometimes you gotta humble those big head people. But that's just my joke. But I was like, yeah, Steam Maiden is best deck, But it was just a joke. But as of now, I actually do like solely believe that Steam Maiden is the best deck of the format because of just the new card pool that they got. But previous to before, I was looking at, like I said before, I was looking at all the cards that had came out, and I was like, this deck has potential to be really, really good. And I took it to my locals, terrorized locals for a minute. Matter of fact, I made 3 other people build a deck after I had top locals with it. And they was like, yo, this deck is insane. I was like, yeah. Okay, so the deck was a multi-attack at bonds. At the time, you had to run like 4 Reinnovate Dragons, which was the only way to turbo your bond zone at the time. And I was like, okay, this deck will be really good with another wave of support. And then when we got the new plan selection stuff, I was like, oh, this gave it everything that it needed. It gave us a grade 4 Uluru, so it gave us more shield. It gave us another Steam Maiden, which we needed another name. And that Steam Maiden essentially gives you a +3 because I've never seen a card that says Counterblast 1 and then also Soul Blast 1 at the end of battle and get 3 cards.
Yeah, I was reading that card. It's pretty nutty, actually.
Is insane. Then we got the Gear Cat, which searches you as Steam Maiden. Now the deck actually has everything that it needs to actually be, like I said, I think it's definitely the best deck in the format now because it's just how toolboxy it was. It reminds me of playing, not Gear Chronicles, because it's Gear Chronicles, obviously, but it reminds me of playing old school Timely, if that makes sense.
Yes,
so,
I agree.
And a lot of people might not know because a lot of people hopped in kind of during V era, so I'm gonna give them a little background lore behind it. So back then, Time Lead was all about toolboxing. Your deck was a big toolbox, and you also got a bunch of like multi attacks in, and you was also able to like search cards out that you needed. So with that being said, Steam Maidens now have all that. So you have the new grade 2 that says Counterblast 1, you search the cat. The cat says, okay, when it's placed in general, keep that in mind, placed in general, whether it's from the bond zone or from your deck, that you look at top 3 cards, you add a Steam Maiden and add it to your hand. And then at the end of the battle, that grade 2, when it's on the rig guard, it doesn't have to be boosted by the cat. When it's just boosted in general, you Soul Blast 1, look at 2 cards from the top of your deck, add 1 to your hand, and 1 goes to the bond zone. But you do have to reveal those cards, obviously. It's on the card text itself. But it helps to accelerate your bond zone. It helps you to add cards to your hand. And then also it just adds so many layers.
It reminds me of Rosa from Prisms.
Oh yeah, exactly. And shout out to WCC as well. Noman as well. He actually was at BCS as well. And he was also playing Steam Maidens too. And I walked up to him, I was like, yo, I think this deck is like literally the best deck in the format. Like, I was joking at first saying that, but I wholeheartedly believe it because the deck really doesn't have bad matchups. Because I was constantly asked all the time, I was like, Crow, do you think the deck has bad matchups? I was like, no. It like
not even Norakami.
I will want to say, right, because you play Norakami, thank you for buying my cards.
Right.
Now I have all my tools. I think it has one bad matchup, but you would never see it. Chaos Breaker. NV.
Oh, Chaos Breaker.
Is so slow.
Okay, gotcha.
Because they would lock your stuff and there's nothing you can do. Because if you lock the 2 front rows, then there's not really much you can do. Or if you snatch the force marker, it's nothing that you can do at that point either.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because your multi attacks will be superiorly less. So you have to consistently ride the grade 3 to get your force marker back. But anytime you get the force marker, Chaos Breaker will snatch it away.
Yep.
So that's like the roughest matchup that you would have, but you would never see it because Chaos Breaker literally loses to everything else.
Yeah, it still needs a lot of support to be one of those decks that you kind of like think about when going into a metagame. Diving into your deck a little bit, we saw that we got the grade 4 Steam Maiden, the Uluru, I think, right? Is that what it's pronounced?
Yep.
And how do you feel about that? I feel, like looking at the card, it looks like it helps defensively, but also set up your bind zone. How do you feel about that?
I love the card actually. I really wish it was an actual Steam Maiden so you can search it off with the cat. But obviously they couldn't because it's technically a retrain. It's a retrain of the actual G guard. So the G guard back in G era,
right?
It's a retrain of that.
You're
so
right.
It doesn't have the Steam Maiden name, so you can't search it out with the gear cat. Sadly,
that makes
so if you're
sense.
hard drawn to it, I can recommend you hang on to it. If you need the mold for something else, go ahead and put it back because you can always get into it later. But that card is absolutely insane. Not only does it add more shield value to your deck, it also helps you accelerate your bind zone. And it also, if you don't put a card in your bind zone, you put a card to the bottom of your deck. So if you feel like you're going low on deck and it's going to that grind game, you can put back crits, you can put back heals, you can put back draws. Card's phenomenal. I love that card. But people was looking into the card. It was like, should I run it at like 2 of? Should I run it at 4 of? 3.
Sweet spot.
3 is the magic number. Yep. 2, you don't see it enough. 4 is too much because you want to add other cards into your deck and you don't want to mess up your ratios with your Steam Maidens or like other toolboxy cards. But 3 is the magic number because you'll always be able to at least see one copy at one point in time during the game. Because you're going through your deck quite a lot with searching and binding and so on and so forth. And like I said, just the fact that it adds another layer of shield to your deck is good. And let's say you have a grade 0 Uluru in your hand, you essentially have a quote unquote G guard.
Yep.
Because you can, or if you have your heal guardian in your hand, it's a 15k shield. You can ditch either your heal guardian, like if you're already on grade 3, or you can ditch the Uluru. True. Use it to call the grade 4 from the bind zone into your guardian circle, and then you can bind that grade 0 Uluru, so that way now you're setting up your bind zone. And then she herself, the grade 4, after leaving guardian circle, goes into the bind zone. So now you're able to set up more multi-attacks like later on throughout the game.
No, that makes a lot of sense, especially what you mentioned about the grade 3 heal guardians, because like they become weaker later on. Usually they're there to help survive in the early game against certain matchups too, like Gurgawith, for example, and any other early aggro. I guess what that kind of leads me to, what was your winning image? Was it like your grade 3 turn, you're popping off to multi-attack until your opponent is 6 damage, or is it more setup still? Like, what did that look like for you or your goal?
So, funny enough, this entire BCS tournament, my idea is to put my opponent to 3 and then pretty much shred their hand at that point. Because with the deck, now the deck has early game aggression. Originally, when the set first came out, the first wave of support, the deck didn't really have much of an early game. You had to kind of rely on Reanimate Dragon and set up your bind zone, and that way you can be able to do all your multi-attacks and stuff like that. But now you have cards that can tutor out cards out of your deck, so that way you have a more of an early game rush. You want to put your opponent to 3. Okay. Ideally, 3 is your sweet spot number.
Yep.
But 4, you almost can guarantee game, but 3 is the kill range. And afterwards, you set up like your you put the marker on, you put it wide on either left or right, whatever column that you like to swing with first. And you just want to get as many attacks off as possible and try and poke as many times to see if you can just either shred your opponent's hand or just outright just close out the game.
Gotcha. No, that makes a lot of sense too, because like you put them in kill range, and then once you're ready to pop off, you can just finish the game at that point too. What's really cool about V Premium, and I think a lot of people give V Premium a lot of smack, but one of the things that you don't have to worry about is the over trigger.
Absolutely.
You can deal with triggers going into the damage zone, but you could account for it at least, right? Gotcha.
And that's another beauty. Now, just kind of piggybacking on that.
Sure.
People's like, doesn't this die kind of dies to defensive triggers? Yes and no. So let's say you put your opponent to 3 damage, right?
Yep.
You poke for 1 damage because your opponent's gonna be like, okay, I'm at 3. I take the first hit, see if I get a defensive trigger. Okay, no defensive trigger. All right, now they're gonna probably take another hit. Okay, cool, I get a defensive trigger. So now they kind of like alleviate some of that pressure that they have. But then, because you go with the Ulu grade 0, you'll use the grade 3 skill that says when your Steam Maiden unit attacks, you can bind it and tag it out for a grade +1 of it.
Yep.
And if you call out a grade 1, you get the counter charge 1. So you have a counter charge in your deck as well, built into your actual Vanguard itself, which is
really
great.
Nice. Yeah.
Exactly. So you will go 15, 18, because you go to the grade 1. The grade 1 says you counter blast 1, and you tag it out to the grade 2. You tag it out to the grade 2. So let's say you hit a defense trigger on your first on the Ulu swing. That's fine. That's 15. Now I bring out my grade 1. You swing boosted. You're either swinging for 26 or bigger if you have the cat, because the cat gets 1K for each card in your bond zone.
Yep.
So now you're still hitting over defensive trigger. Okay, cool. They don't have the defensive trigger. They're still like a 20K base. That's fine. Or they'll see it, they do hit a defensive trigger and they're on grade 2 or whatever. You can go into the grade 2. The grade 2 says once she's called from bond zone, you target a card in your drop zone and bind it, and then she gets 3K for each of that unit's grade. So it multiplies. So it become up to 29 or 32 if you bind the grade 4 Uluru. So now you're still hitting over defensive triggers. And then, your last swing will probably be, if you have your drop zone set up, the right way, and you have the grade 3 in the drop zone. The grade 3 says on the Vanguard, she gets 3K power on Vanguard for each card in your bond zone, but on Vanguard, she gets 1K power. So you're still swinging over defensive triggers.
Yeah. Oh, that makes a lot of sense too. It's pretty cool that you can kind of adapt. Time Limp can kind of do that back in the G era as well. It can kind of adapt if you hit certain triggers too. So it's kind of cool just to have that now in V Premium. Another card that I saw is the Colossus. How useful was Colossus? I feel like it just kind of helped you at least end games. Did that come up as often as you hoped?
Yes, that card is probably one of the biggest MVPs next to the new grade 4 Uluru, which was definitively the MVP of the day, to be honest with you. Colossus came up so we played 7 rounds of Swiss. So out of the Swiss rounds, it came up 3 times.
Wow. Okay.
Because sometimes you, it's no way to truly search it. So you either have to hard draw into it or hope you get it off.
Right. Because not like a Steam Maiden or anything like that. Right.
Right. Or you can hit it off when you do the top 2 after boosting a new grade 2 Steam Maiden. And if you see it, you see. If you don't, you don't. It's not that big of a deal, but when you do see it, your win rate goes up. Yeah. You have like a 90% chance of pretty much closing out that game if you do see it. Because your opponent comes like, oh, I have like a 10 card hand. Yeah, can you deal with like 8 attacks, guarding twice? I mean, with 2 cards every single time? And then sometimes people have PGs in their hand, so that requires 3 cards.
That's true, right? You have to pay the cost on top of that. Kind of reminds me of Flagberg a little bit. Just one less card. Yeah. No.
So being able to stretch your opponent's hand is just phenomenal, to be honest with you. So that card is like I said, one of the MVPs. A lot of people hate that card with a passion. Like a lot of my opponents,
because it's for the whole turn, right? For each attack, right?
Exactly. My opponent will pick up the card, they'll read it, they'll be like, they go, I was like, oh yeah, that's it. I love that look.
I just might die.
I think that's another big thing that a lot of people don't realize, like when they're playing in Vanguard, the mental game is all about the mental game as well. And like just reading your opponent, body language, and things of that nature. So there's another thing you have to pay attention to when you're playing matchups with people. Yeah.
It's information too for you to kind of like assess if you really need to make a quick decision based off on that too. So that's super big too. So, and with COVID, we had some online events, and sometimes you can't get that.
Right.
Yeah.
But seeing people tilt off the Colossus is definitely a good card.
Yeah, that's it. You get to see that expression. It's like, okay, this is a good spot to be in.
Exactly.
Awesome. So with all the preparation that you've done and how articulate the deck is, what were your expectations in the metagame? Like, were there certain matchups that you were like more cautious about, or anything like that?
Funny enough, no, because like I said, I had tested Steam Maiden since it had been released originally, and at the time, I believe it didn't have a bad matchup before. And like I said, with the introduction of the new support, I wholeheartedly believe, like I said before, Chaos Breaker is literally like the only deck where I would say, you know what, I might have a rough time, because when you're looking at like Gurgle, people's like, oh, Gurgle might be like definitively best deck in the format, Unge definitively Unge or Unge Highlander, those 2 variants are out there. You have like Night Rose, things of that nature, because introducing Holy Shot, people thought, oh, Gurgle was going to do well. There was 0 Gurgowitz in top 8. And we had a bunch of Gurgowitz players, funny enough, contrary to belief. There was a lot of Gurgowitz players there, and they all got shredded because either they killed themselves off, but also I have to like play testing a lot against a lot of Gurgowitz players, because my locals is nothing but Gurgowitz, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Wow.
Because everybody thinks that deck's the best deck, and when I'm sitting there playing Steam Maidens, it can keep up with Gurgowitz because I can aggro you a lot more than you can aggro me. It's like, because your power scales off the number of Excel markers you have. I need one.
Right.
I just need one marker. And since I'm multi-attack, Gurglewood skill rarely comes up like that. Because I remember I was playing somebody at my locals. They guarded with the Gurglewood skill. They didn't see a PG up there, so they guard, and then they still had to guard from hand.
Right.
But I had Colossus active, so they had to guard with another 2 cards.
It's the card stone. Yeah.
Yep. So just being able to like stretch your opponent's hand and hit such high numbers, the deck is just really solid and really good.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. And during the day of, were your expectations valid? What were some key highlights that you want to mention, like breaker deal moments, anything like that too?
So I did have a couple of close calls. I did lose one game that day, and I lost to Vanquisher, which I don't think the matchup was hard by any means. My opponent literally seen nobody was sacking. Funny enough, it was triggers. It was like very minimal triggers. I think most of us just either draw triggers for the most part. But I bricked. I can only go up grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. I just didn't see anything to bind. I didn't see anyone break for Ularoos. I didn't see my other grade 2 Steam Maiden, so it was really rough. But I got my run back in top 8. First round of top 8, I had to play him again, and I won that pretty handily.
You got your revenge.
Oh yeah. But the other close call that I had 2. One was against Battle Sisters because I almost bricked, but the deck, like I said before, the deck tutors itself so well. I seen the grade 2. The grade 2 got me the grade 1. The Gear Cat. The Gear Cat got me into another Maiden, so I was able to like get cards back, and then I started shredding his head with the multi attack. And then shout out to the Laura player. I cannot remember what round it was. Matter of fact, I can actually tell you my actual matchups because I actually did.
That'd be helpful for everybody.
Down. All right.
Even if it's a quick rundown, that's fine. Yeah.
Yep. Gotcha. So round 1 was against Gurglewood. I won. Round 2 was Laura. That was one of the closest matches of the day. I had 2 of the best matches of my life against Luar player. I tried to push him. He just kept healing. He just kept healing down defensively. I was like, I cannot kill this guy. He won't die. And he ended up having so I was looking at my hand. I was like, wow, I might just lose this game because I had a PG and I had like a decent amount of shield, but I had no grade 4 Uluru.
Yep.
And he had 4 wide on one and 3 wide on another. But I thought, because I was like, I play shadows. I'm a shadow main, so I know what to do in this matchup against War. He had 3 damage. He kept guarding everything early, and then I hit him for 1 damage. And then he was like, okay. And then he thought I was going to swing my other guard. I looked at my board. I looked at it. I said, pass turn. And he looked. He was like, oh. With Sharon being banned, he would have no way to countercharge, so he wasn't able to do multi-attack and get the full combo with Bass, Professor, and stuff like that. So that helped me with the matchup knowledge, knowing the matchup. Battle Sisters was another match. Then I fought round 3. Round 4 was Gurglewood again, destroyed Gurglewood. Round 5 was Shahardamon.
Oh,
and
wow.
Again, this deck actually, Steam Maiden does really well against Protect decks. Normally it says Protect beats Force, but with Colossus, it makes matchup a lot easier.
That and you multi-attack too on top of that, which Protect doesn't like generally. Yep.
And then round 6 was Vanquisher, which I lost to, which I kind of explained that. And then round 7, I fought against Revengers.
Raging 4?
But Raging 4.
Nice.
Yep. And I said I have a vendetta where I cannot lose to Raging 4 because that is my deck. That is my baby.
It's a fun deck.
It is. I've actually not lost a mirror match until yesterday in Premium, and I punted that game away, but that's for another time. But I beat the Revenger player. Then top 8, I ended up fighting against the same Vanquisher player. I beat him. And then top 4, this matchup was so great. I love this matchup. Everybody was watching it. Get some more Kalen, and he was playing Leopold Reverse. That deck is so cracked. I think that deck is probably the next best deck underneath Steam Maiden because that deck does so much. I've never seen a card say Counterblast 1 do everything. You get a marker, you get Excel marker, so you go on Excel 2, so you're drawing a card. You're getting plus 5k to your front row continuously. You get a crit on your Vanguard, and you get to look at top 5 and call 2 units.
That does everything.
By Counterblast and locking up Leopold. what?
Easy.
I was like, this card is great. So I ended up winning that matchup. But like I said, it was a close match. But I had a bunch of shield in hand, and he couldn't deal with the pressure from the multi attacks.
Gotcha.
And then in finals, I actually played this player in my shop challenge. He actually he didn't beat me. I beat him in Swiss, and then I lost right before I get to play him in the finals.
Yeah.
So he ended up winning the shop challenge, and we met in the finals at BCS.
That's funny.
And sadly, the match didn't go the way I wanted it to end. He G assisted twice for a grade 2 on lift, and I went first. So like, it's not the way I wanted to win, but win is a win.
Right.
But I was pretty confident that I could win the matchup. He's a very good player, by the way. And he told me at the end, he was like, "You're good. It happens." And he was like, "You beat me before," like I said. And then when we played at the shop challenge, like the previous weekend, and like I said, when he G assisted and I seen his hand, I was like, "Oh wow, there's like no way he can actually like make a huge comeback because he just had a bunch of shield and no combo, and I had full combo." Yeah, so I was like,
this is not going as well for you, but for me, yeah.
Right. I had like multiple rod targets. I had Reinnovate Dragon. I had Colossus. I had everything I needed. I was set up. But he just assisted twice. He whipped and then he said, "I concede." I was like, gotcha. All right. But he also believes I would probably would have won that matchup as well too. Like just because of, even if he didn't G assist because it's just the cards that he had in his hand. Like if he could have just normally rolled up, he didn't have combo.
Oh, okay, gotcha. What was he playing again?
Maidens.
So it was a mirror match. Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it was actually, we played a mirror match at Shop League as well.
Oh, that's funny. Challenge. Well, that's pretty cool. So, but yeah, the fact that he also plays the deck, he kind of knows like how it would have played out too. So that makes a lot of sense in that sense too. Cool. Awesome. Like now that after the event, did you take some time to like celebrate or maybe reflect anything that you learned or reassured for yourself?
It took a minute for me to actually realize that I had won because, like I said, this win has been eluding me since 2014. Like I mentioned before, anytime that you beat me in the last round of Swiss or in top 8, you're pretty much guaranteed to win the event. And I've won that event before. I've won Springfest, like I said, back in 2018. I got 3rd place in 2018 at BCS, but just being able to like finally get that first win was amazing. I posted some pictures like on my Twitter and on my Facebook page, like with me
capturing
and my sponsors, just capturing the moments. Because again, it was just unbelievable. Like I've been trying so hard to get this win, and I finally, achieved it. I would sit there and say this though. I was struggling mentally, like really, really bad at one point. Before BCS, I actually posted it on my Twitter and stuff. And sorry for the background noise.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I figured, but
yeah, yeah. But I was struggling mentally for a minute because I was like, wow, I'm not sure if I still like got it in me to sit there and like events like that. I had like just like a bunch of things like going on at one time, like real life stuff. I was sitting there constantly, like I had Crow's Nest stuff that I was trying to get settled.
Yep.
Like hosting events. I was also coaching a bunch of players because I don't coach on Metafy. Shout out to Metafy, by the way. Check out my boy Commander High.
I appreciate that.
Check out Derek Dow as well. I don't have a Metafy myself, but I do like the homie. But I do like a lot of like in Georgia coaching like to a lot of players. And if anybody ever just want like coaching, they can always just DM me. I'm always down. Wow. I found theory craft with them and explain matchups and like my philosophy on the outlooks of the game, things of that nature. But I was just like down in the dumps at the time. I was like, then after that, I seen all my homies top at the BCS. What was it? Houston was the first one, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Right. So it was before the new meta, technically, because they didn't have the clan selection stuff. I was like, wow. I see my boy Noman. I see my boy Mark Doe. I seen like all of my homies just top. I said, y'all are motivation. I said, I got this. I said, I needed to see that. I said, I literally tweeted out like later on. I was like, I'm going to top BCS Atlanta. And then, lo and behold,
it did
the whole thing.
No, it's very humbling too to hear, because like you get to that point where you can kind of get frustrated. You have the doubt a little bit. It's like, can I even do it? Or like, am I worthy enough? And those thoughts come to everybody, right? It's not just Go ahead.
And it was really bad because I was doing really well. We had multiple shop challenges.
Yeah.
So I had like 2 premium and I had a B premium. B premium, I was so close to getting the buy card, and my deck bricked on me, and I lost to 7 C's. I was like, okay, it's whatever. Then I played at my the premium one. I got a guy guards with his OTs playing Great Nature.
Yeah.
I'm playing Raging for him. His only out was to OT for game. So he called the Fox, the grade 3 Fox, to put back a normal unit and the OT shuffle back. He had at least 30 plus cards in his deck. He goes into his stride, commits his hand. He swings with his Vanguard. I'm at 3 damage. He has Rhino on board too. So I said I have to eat a hit, but I have a heal guard in my hand.
Yeah.
Right, I have a heal guard in my hand, so that way I can do the G RPG with Shadows, the one that was introduced.
Yeah.
But then he goes, I said, okay. Afterwards, she just goes, okay, check blank, check OT. I was like, all right, I guess I lose. And then I turn around and the guy that got second place at BCS and the guy I actually played in the finals, NV, I played him at the shop league that next day in premium, and guess what? Offensive OT, turn 1 with double Demolition Dragon on board because he's playing Eradicators. And it was a best of 3. And then the next game, the first game actually, I'm sorry, he defensive OT'd on my kill turn. And then I died. And then the second one, he OT going second, and he just gained so much advantage, and he had a bunch of heal guards in his hand, and I just couldn't do anything. So I was like, at that point, I was tilted. I was like, you know what? Screw the game. I can't do anything. It's whatever. My motivation for this game is gone. And especially when I found out that Worlds was not going to be in Japan, that was another factor as well. Where I was like, I understood the reason why, because obviously COVID is,
yeah, I think it's
kind of bad over there.
Where is it now? In LA or California or somewhere else?
LA.
Okay, gotcha.
LA, yeah. And with it not being in Japan, and I was mad because I had an opportunity to go in 2018, well, 2019 technically is when that Worlds would have played out. I didn't go because I just didn't have the funds for it. But shout out to, again, Georgia, because they actually wanted to make a GoFundMe and actually send me out there to Worlds. But I declined the offer from everybody because, again, I just felt bad for, trying to take, money from my community, and I wasn't able to give back. So
I see.
That's why I didn't take the money and go to Worlds.
Yeah, and I get it, because like you're going through all these emotions and you're doing your best, and then sometimes like it's not turning out as you hope to be, right? So yeah, and that's great. Like sometimes like when you have these moments, a great breakthrough is coming, and ultimately it did for you. You finally were able to win the whole thing, and you got your invite to Worlds, and it's sponsored, which is really cool,
Thank you.
Yeah, so and it's no easy feat too, because you have to fight through a lot of rounds to get there, and still have the mental capacity to like do well and finish off strong too. So awesome. Lastly too, I know you mentioned about like Metafy earlier, which kind of leads me to this one question that I like to end with people so they have a takeaway. What do you think is something that, in your eyes, holds players back from topping events? Anything that you would recommend to even get through that as well?
Mental game. Anytime I coach people, and I tell people this all the time at my locals, because I want to see everybody top. I want to top myself, but I want to see my community top as well. Seeing other people thrive in the community gives me, it's like, wow, I was able to help that person, and now they're doing well. It's all about the mental game first off. That's number one key. If you have a strong mental, you will do well at events. A lot of times people get tilted really easily.
Yeah.
A lot of times I tell people all the time, say, you got to pay attention to your body language. It was like, what do you mean by that, Cross? Like, a lot of times when people are playing, people normally like stone cold, but when they start getting tilted, they start moving around.
Antsy, yeah.
Right, antsy.
Grunts.
Hand shuffling, people grunts. People hand shuffle all the time, but some people start hand shuffling really aggressively. Some people start shaking their head. All of that stuff factors in. When your opponent sees you tilt, you've won the mental game. Once you won the mental game, you've won the match itself.
Yeah.
Another thing, people just have to be knowledgeable. A lot of times people go into this game thinking, oh, I can just know my deck and then that's it. No, you have to learn the meta. You got to know what other decks do. I'm not saying you necessarily have to pick those decks up and play them.
Have an
yourself,
idea.
but you at least you just have to read the card pool and see, oh, this matches with this. Oh, this card does that. Oh, okay, and kind of piece two and two together. So those are like some of the things I think hold people back a lot. Like I said, mental game and not being knowledgeable enough about other clans or nations.
Yeah, those are the biggest factors too, because they think a deck is really what's going to get you there, but that's just only one part of the equation. Like, you got to have the emotional stability, like you said, like not to get tilted, especially when you get OT'd or things like that tilt you. Because sometimes you take that baggage into the next round too, right? And that's how people can scrub out too. And then what's, just knowing the matchups too, because like there are certain matchups that if you do give a counterblast, you just guarantee your loss. Versus where it's like Luard's a good example too. Before they write their grade 2, if they don't have an opening hand that's pretty well, they can take an extra turn to really set up if you deny them the counterblast for Leofall, right? For example, like things like that too. And some people just don't realize, they just ride Vanguard and then swing, and hope for the best.
And again, it kind of actually goes back to like I was my Luard matchup, and when I was playing in BCS, I had opportunity to hit my opponent Vanguard and make him go to 5 damage, but I was like, why would I give you another counterblast to just absolutely destroy me?
That too. Yeah, sometimes they need that extra counterblast to seal the deal. Yep. Right,
and that's where it goes back into matchup knowledge and knowing what decks do and the limitations of decks.
Yeah, exactly too. You mentioned coaching a little bit. I know that you're not really doing Metafy, but like, would you recommend Metafy to other people?
I would. Actually, I think Metafy is actually really good, and it's great exposure for not only just the community, but for players as a whole, because again, I stated before, I want to see the community thrive. I like seeing the homies top, and I think Metafy is a good place for people to do that. Like, there's so many good players such as yourself and Derek Dow that are doing phenomenal for the community. Thank you so much for you all services as well. And because, example, Brian Dorsey. Granted, my tournaments are kind of small. You can almost call it like a super locals in a sense. But we had 54 players at my last Crow's Nest Premium event.
That's a good amount.
He got the coaching from, thank you. And he got the coaching from you and Derek Dow. And he went into my event. He got top 16, guaranteeing his invite into the 2K Invitational that's coming up next month, actually.
Oh, that's coming up quick.
Oh, yeah. So it's October 2nd and 3rd. I believe that is a Saturday and a Sunday, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice.
That's so I definitely recommend Metafy for those players that are looking to step the game up to the next level, because there's so many people that are knowledgeable about the game. Matter of fact, you can be knowledgeable about the game, but there's just other theories and things that you might have never thought about. Like us as top players, like I myself as a top player, I would like to consider myself to be a top player at least. And some people I am, some people I might not be, but there are things I might not know. I can go talk to Solemn, who is another great player. Granted, he doesn't have a Metafy, but he's another great player who's pretty knowledgeable about the game, and he might give me some, theories or things that
just something to brainstorm or mastermind.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
At Noman, another great player I can always go to. He might be, he's pretty knowledgeable about the game, pretty great player as well. So just having Metafy here and having access to those people, because sometimes people might not have time. But on Metafy, you have select times for those people. So definitely recommend Metafy for those who's looking at step their game up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and sometimes they confuse the two too, where it's like, well, I can ask my friend that's a better player or a top end player that is knowledgeable. What's the difference if I pay for Metafy? Is that even if you have a good friend of yours, they're not incentivized to really help you unless they really like you, right?
Exactly.
Where Metafy, there's a financial interest in both sides, where like, hey, like this is actually more dedicated to the student, and what's the goals that you're trying to accomplish within the session, so you get the most out of it, right? And so that's where I feel like sometimes people forget too. But yeah, absolutely, I want to grow the community too, and there's other players too, like Derek Dow and also Car Dweeb. He does the Tachikaze side of things, so I can see Metafy growing eventually too, to having multiple people there, to having multiple coaches. And what's really cool is that sometimes we refer students to each other. So for example, if somebody really wanted to learn more about Pale Moon, I always refer them to Derek Dow. Like I'm not an expert in Pale Moon. He will do more justice.
Really strong player with Pale Moon.
Right, and thank God we have somebody like that too, because for a while Pale Moon wasn't as popular, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I
so
still think to this day it's not even that popular, but I mean, dolls are, but now Derek Dow, he's just really cool with that
right.
clan in general, like up from all aspects. So
Absolutely too. Any other shout outs that you may have?
yes, just a couple.
Sure.
Shout out to Triple Sleeve TCG, my original sponsors. Check them out for all your card fight needs. Shout outs to my current sponsors, Kingslayer Cards. If you need Vanguard needs there, also check them out. They sell Vanguard, they buy Vanguard. They also shout out to their Kingslayer tournaments. Check them out. They post on Facebook and Twitter all the time about their invitationals and events. Right now we have you can get your last chance qualifier. I believe, like I said, October 2nd and 3rd are the 2K invitationals. Day 1 is standard, day 2 is premium. But that Friday, they're hosting a last chance qualifier.
Nice.
But after this 2K, thank you. After this 2K event ends here, it's not just going to end there. They're going to continue moving on. So next season, they're going to do another invitational, so that way you can get your invites as well for the next upcoming invitational after that as well. We have a nice big trophy and stuff like that that's in the works as well. So yeah, shout out to them. Shout out to the Vanguard community as a whole. Shout out to you yourself, Commander Jaime, as well, for having no problem at all, for allowing me to speak upon the deck and my experiences and stuff like that. I did have one quick thing I want to mention, because somebody actually posted it underneath my deck log. They was asking me about my trigger ratio as far as my heals go specifically. We just talking about
the 3-1 ratio, right? Yep.
Yep. And he was asking, he was like, when you think it would be better to run like 4 of the Steam Maiden grade zeros, the Ulurus? I was like, no, actually the 3-1 ratio is perfect, because as I told you before, that magic number 3. Because you're almost guaranteed to see it every single time.
Makes sense.
It's also a maiden, so it's searchable.
Yep.
And that one heal guard, it comes up a lot more than you think. It actually came up twice.
Wow.
For me. So I actually needed to heal guard, and one time I just did not draw a 3. And guess what? The only 3 I had in my hand was a heal guard, which was great, because in my list I run Gear Dog. Gear Dog Reads.
Yep.
One place you can search your deck for. You reveal a grade 3 from your hand. Search your deck for a grade 3, and then you discard cards from your hand up to that grade.
So you just discarded it.
Right, just discard it, and I was able to search my actual Vanguard that I needed.
That's a good point.
I can play the game. So that one comes up more often than people actually think. So that's why I run the 3-1 ratio.
No, that makes sense. A lot of sense too. So, and yeah, shout out to Kingslayer Cards. I actually get cards from them too. I realized that they're on TCG Flare too, so that's super helpful. So I can even make my own content and play against in tournaments too. So definitely appreciate it for that. Where can people find you? Like on social media?
So you can, on Facebook, you follow me at Antonio Tutt Jr. or friend me on Antonio Tutt Jr. on there. On Twitter, find me at Pro Trickster. And I have a YouTube. I don't upload content, so I'm going to refer you to Kingslayer Cards. So drop them a subscription on YouTube, because all my content will be going over there.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and I could put your social media on the description, so it's easier for other people to see that too as well. Awesome. So thanks again for doing the interview. It's very insightful, very fun too, and it just helps the community overall. And congrats again for your amazing top. And keep it up. I look forward to seeing more success from you in the metagame as we move forward into this game too. So without further ado, amigos, until the next one. Bye.
Peace.